Vince, are you ready for some rapid fire?
Sean, it's the only thing I'm here for. So let's hit some rapid fire, baby.
Was literally brought in out of the bullpen to do rapid fire tonight.
You got a really complicated question later on in rapid fire, by the way, which I really should have looked at earlier.
Wondering which one it is. Okay.
You're asking me to rank people, dude.
Oh, well, you don't have to rank the whole thing. But...
Okay.
Okay, so the uniform crisis, Vince, has been averted. Are you happy with what Notre Dame is going to wear Friday night against Indiana?
No, I'm ecstatic.
Okay.
I think that they took, the classic Notre Dame look, which is what they should have been wearing in this magnitude of a game, in this historic game, in this historic venue, this historic, I can use the word historic about everything that I'm saying, okay? They took that uniform and they just made it better, like with the gold accents and the gold names on the back and the little emblem that they got on the neck, on all of those different things. I put on Twitter, like, you just need to take, when this game is over, you need to take those uniforms and take them straight to the College Football Hall of Fame. Like it's the perfect uniform. I think they got the pants right, it appears. Right?
Looks like real gold pants, and not the mustard.
The uniforms with the gold accents. And, and then the helmet, just pack it all up, send it down to Atlanta. Like, that's where they need to go. When I saw that on Twitter, I was ecstatic about the uniforms. Absolutely ecstatic.
I think they look great. They're like pretty much a classic, like, bowl game kind of look for Notre Dame. And, like with the names on the back, they go to the names on the back for the postseason and all that. They look great, especially since it does look like they're ditching the mustard pants for actual gold pants, which is something that a lot of people have been calling for a long time. They look really good. These are what you would expect a Notre Dame uniform to look like on a massive stage in the first ever college football playoff game on anyone's home campus, like in anyone's home stadium. We had someone on the YouTube comments last night say, "Oh, you guys need to get off the, changes in the uniforms, quit being old stodgy, crusty and whatever else." Look, like, I'm not against alternate uniforms.
Yeah,
I think that alternate uniforms, in the right time and place are good. Don't forget, green is an alternate uniform. I would have been for green, in this game Friday, since it's a Notre Dame game. But like the black specifically, because of everything, like the big picture, this is still the first playoff game that Notre Dame will ever host, that anyone will ever host. And I just don't think that going to a black jersey in that instance would have been the way to go.
Completely agree with you. And I am not against alternate jerseys. In fact, I like a lot of the stuff that Notre Dame throws out there for their alternate jerseys. I like the fact that they, brought out.
I like the Shamrock series.
I did. I really like those. I like the white pants with the blue jerseys when they were down at Atlanta. They are willing to kind of mix some things up a little bit. And I think that is thinking outside the box. And I like it. But at the same time, when you're in a game like this, you've got to you've got to be who you are. And this is who Notre Dame is. That's where I'm at with this whole thing. You know what I mean? So I'm all in on it. I love them.
I agree with what Outbound is saying. Looks like the 88 uniforms with a modern twist. It does a little bit.
Yeah.
Remember they wore kind of the retro looking 88. Fill in the blank. This season would have been blank if Notre Dame didn't make it to the college football playoff.
Complete disappointment. Utter disappointment if that would have happened. And I realized they were one loss away from making that a reality, but that would have been a disappointment with the team that we thought that Notre Dame had. Yes, they had to deal with some injuries and some things like that. I get all of that, but it still would have been a disappointment because we were talking about how deep this team is, how talented this team is. They were poised to make a run, all of those different things. I just think that if they didn't make the playoff, it's a complete and utter disappointment.
We're not far off. I would have said complete. My answer is complete failure. It would have been a complete failure with the schedule that they went up against, because that's still the biggest knock, against Notre Dame, is the fact that they did play, for group of 5 teams, along the way to get to where they are right now. And they didn't have the toughest strength of schedule. They didn't have the worst strength of schedule of anyone in the playoff field, but they didn't have the toughest strength of schedule. And going up against that with everything that they put into this in, year 3 for Marcus Freeman, it would have been a total failure. But, fortunately that didn't happen. Here they are hosting, so you don't have to worry about that.
Absolutely.
Irish for Life 99 said, what about the midriff of the 88 uniforms? Could you imagine like Riley Mills, like with the Chris Zorich look?
That'd have been hilarious.
Like with the 80s cutoff, shirt.
Did you ever
wear like the half shirts when you were growing up in the 80s? Like,
no, that wasn't me. And I,
before your time.
Well, yeah, it was a little bit before my time because
high tube 80s, socks.
I did have those. I had the high tube socks. There's no doubt about that. Like in the 80s, I was single digits the whole way. You know what I mean? So I never really had the high school look.
Gotcha.
By the time I got to high school, the uniforms were all the way down. So, but it wasn't. Here's the thing, though. Right before I got to high school, so like early 90s. The high school I went to had the older jerseys with like the bigger holes, you know what I mean? And the midriff, because those became our practice jerseys when I got to high school because they got new ones. And so I was just behind the trend of the cutoffs. I wore them to practice every day, but that's not what we wore on game day.
Yeah. We had they were like, I think kind of like what you're talking about, like total mesh.
Yes.
For the practice jerseys.
Yeah.
So like, especially when it got cold outside, because like our game jerseys were like 10 times as thick, it felt like, as opposed to the practice jerseys. So you were like wearing hooded sweatshirts and everything else, underneath, because there was like nothing to block the wind at all with those practice jerseys that we had with all that mesh. But
right.
I remember I've like seen some old pictures, where I've got like the cutoff, like the half shirt, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
Cool 70s and 80s, baby. That's right.
Yeah, man. Rock and roll.
Fill in the blank. A successful Irish postseason is blank.
See, this is such a hard question to ask because we're right in the middle of it. And like any loss that Notre Dame has over the next 4 games is going to be devastating. Like it's going to be disappointing. Like that's where I'm at. Like the post-game show, if and when Notre Dame loses, is going to be depressing and devastating. So I got to take the macro look. I got to try to take the 1,000-foot view of the whole thing. So I think a successful postseason is winning 2 games. I think winning 2 games, getting to the Final Four, I think you can look back on that as a successful run. I hope it's better than that. Like, you know what I mean? I like I said, in the moment, I would be devastated if that happens, even if they win 2 and lose the 3rd, like I would still be devastated. But, a month from now or 2 months from now, when I'm looking back on it, they win 2 games. That means they won a home game, obviously, and that means they beat Georgia. I think you can look back and be like, you know what? That was a pretty successful year, because I think a lot of people are still looking towards next year as being kind of a year they make a run. So I think 2 games.
Yeah, I think a successful one is one that definitely starts with a win tomorrow night. You've got to win that. And I'm not saying, like then if you lose to Georgia, kumbaya, and it's still like you have to win tomorrow night.
Yeah,
though, is what it comes down to me. But like you, I do think that ultimately 2 wins is very realistic for this team, and like to put themselves in a different stratosphere than they've been in these situations before. I do feel like now you can already, and I don't want to have like the straw man argument before any of this stuff is even started. There will be people who say, well, if Carson Beck, wasn't playing, who did you really, all that, but you would still have a win over the SEC champion, right? Like the undisputed SEC champion, because Georgia beat Texas twice during the regular season, even though they lost a couple of games. So like if you're Notre Dame, you would have beaten a good Big Ten team at home to start off, then you would have a win over the SEC champ in the second round. I think that would be an ultra successful season. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but it definitely starts with a win tomorrow night. Tomorrow night.
We're both in agreement on that one. And I will also say, I agree. What I think it was Joe that said it. If you win the first 2, then obviously, who was it that said? I'm sorry. The third, it was Irish Gordian knot, excuse me. He said, but if they win 2, the third would be BSU, PSU, or SMU. And losing to one of those would be a huge disappointment after beating Georgia.
Too.
So I don't disagree with that. I'm saying,
so it's almost like getting to the championship if you're going to look at it that way, right?
I agree with you, Irish. I really do, because I think any other time, like if we're talking about faceless opponents, winning 2 games in the playoff is huge, right? I think that's a success.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. If they win 2, then they have one of those 3. They should beat every one of those teams. So it would be a huge disappointment. I agree with you. But I think looking back, you're like, okay, well, they won 2 games, one of which was Georgia. Success. But man, would I be disappointed if they lose to one of those 3. I'm with you. I'm with you.
For sure. So ESPN ranked the top 50 players who are playing in the college football playoff this year. It's blank that Arizona State running back Cam Skattebo is number 3 on this list, and Jeremiyah Love is Notre Dame's top player at number 11.
Oh my gosh. Hilarious is the answer, because no one in the country outside of the state of Arizona knew who Cam Skattebo was before last week. I'm sorry, they didn't. And if you're saying that you did, you're a liar. You're a liar. And all of a sudden, he's the 3rd best player in the playoffs.
Right.
Give me a freaking break. Give me a break. Like, that is one of the worst. All I know is what you just told me, that he's 3 and Jeremiyah Love is 11. That is hilarious. It is recency bias up the wazoo. And after tomorrow night, they're going to want to reshuffle that.
Look, if you had Barney Rubble and the Flash running a race against each other, would you pick Barney Rubble or would you pick the Flash?
I mean,
that's what this is. I'm sorry. Like, Skattebo is this cartoon figure who's like, people just love the rumbling, bumbling, stumbling guy. That's what he is. Like one of these guys is going to still be playing in the NFL 10 years from now. The other guy, not so much. Like it's not like there are a couple things that flashed in my head. I didn't want to be mean.
I know. Cam's not watching, and neither any of his family members. But I get what you're saying.
He's still a really good college football player.
Sure.
But in no universe is Cam Skattebo better than Jeremiyah Love. I'm sorry. And like if going back to the Ashton Genty stuff, like if Jeremiyah Love had Cam Skattebo's carries, like the numbers would just be insane in Jeremiyah Love's favor. Like the only reason you could rank him lower is because he hasn't had to be, the workhorse type guy.
Right.
That Skattebo is.
Which is what he wants, by the way, which is, I mean, it's
not only what he wants, it makes sense for this team because, who's going to have fresh legs going into it? Now, obviously, Jeremiah tweaked his knee a little bit, but like Price and Love both have breakaway speed. Like that's what wins at this time of year. I'm sorry, like grind it out, oversized, churn it out. Running back is not going to carry the day in these playoffs. I'm sorry. Like it might win a game.
Correct.
But the ability to make explosive breakaway plays is what carries the day in these playoff matchups. And that's what Love and Price, but Love, because that's who we're talking about. That's what Love brings. So
it's I'm sorry. That is, you said it was by ESPN. Well, whoever contributed to that needs to have their credential revoked because that's just a comedy of errors. It's comedy of errors, man. I don't know what else to say. It's embarrassing.
Get into a couple of the questions here. Actually, I'll do Joe's first. In or out on Jeremiyah Love having over 150 yards?
Total yards? I'm going to be out on that. I don't know that that's necessary for him to have 150, so I'm going to be out on it, but he's going to be dynamic when he needs to be dynamic. I just don't know that he's going to need to touch the ball enough times to have 150 total yards, so I'm going to be out on it.
One of those two guys is going to have at least a long run tomorrow night. I just don't think that like 150 for an individual, I don't like, especially I'll just limit it to rushing, because even Love as a receiver, like we haven't seen enough where, he's got this, multi-purpose, just huge numbers, type thing. So it's still going to be pretty tough for Notre Dame to come about some yards. They're not just going to run all over and around Indiana out there tomorrow night. So I'm going to be out on that. I still think he's going to have a good game, and like the three of those guys together are going to be a major factor. But individually, I'm going to be out. Michael Jordan Faison becomes the only Notre Dame athlete to be a dual sport national champion in a single year. In or out on that?
I mean, obviously, if we're in on it, that means Notre Dame's winning the national championship. That would be awesome. I don't want to be predicting that Notre Dame's going to win a national championship, so I'm just going to say out.
Yeah,
I don't want to go there.
Got to go out as well, but
I mean, technically, who's first, him or Tyler Buckner? Because they're both on.
True. They'd both get it at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes, Indiana does have the number one run defense in the nation. Make Notre Dame great again.
I don't think anybody said it was
going to be
schedule. Nobody said it was going to be easy,
right,
for Notre Dame to run on Indiana. Okay, nobody's saying that. Do I think they're going to have success? Yes. So there's a difference between it being easy and having success. I also, when you look at the run offenses that they faced, I think two teams are above 91st in the country. The rest are 91st and higher or lower, depending on how you talk, 91st right, or bigger, or whatever.
Or worse.
Yeah. Or thank you. Or worse. So they weren't exactly going up against juggernauts that can run the football. So yes, by stats, they have the number one rush defense in the country. There's no doubt about it. But when you're talking about a bunch of teams in the triple digits in rush offense, I think, you can have an intelligent conversation about it and still say, yes, they have a good run defense, but you can run against them.
Right. And that's why I don't think that Notre Dame will run all over Indiana. I think that at the end of the day, they will have what looks like a successful day running the ball, especially considering what Indiana has done against the run this year. But I'm not predicting that Notre Dame is going to have, close to its 250-yard average against
200.
Indiana. I think that would still be pushing. I think they'll be over 150, but how much over 150, I don't know. Because I still think that, again, don't discount Riley Leonard in the passing game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with that. I think the rushing yards are going to be closer to 200 than they are to 150. So I'm not saying they're going to hit 200, but I think they'll be closer to 200 than they are to 150.
Okay.
And
that's how it goes. That's how it's gone in some of Notre Dame's games as well. It's it doesn't always look like it's, like this massive game. But then when you look at the stat line at the end, it's over 200 yards again.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's the crazy part. And I do, yeah, I'll leave it at that. I think they will have success. And look, I believe they're averaging 85 yards a game or something like that against, right? It's something minuscule like that. I mean, Notre Dame will blitz that number, in my opinion.
What's that number again?
Was it 85 a game or something like that? What is
that Indiana's allowing?
Yeah.
70.8.
There you go. That'll be halftime. They'll be past that.
Okay. So Riley Leonard was asked this week about the boos that he got earlier this season. Here's his response. Quote, "You really don't understand the magnitude of this place until you lose. I say that all the time. That's when I really felt like, oh, dang, there's a lot more magnitude that I hold and weight that I hold when I play the game than I expected. Those boos and stuff early, definitely didn't like them. Also remind myself that's 10% of the crowd. But when 10% of the crowd is booing, it's enough for me to hear it, and I kind of get pissed off. I guess it kind of motivated me and kicked me into gear. Whenever all that negativity was coming towards me, my phone was shut off. So I had no idea. I don't even know now. My phone is still shut off. So I could be the best quarterback or still hated. I don't even know. I think this offense as a whole obviously starts with me, the quarterback, the captain. If I can respond from adversity like that, it gives them confidence oh, snap. If he can respond from that, he can respond from anything. Anytime something goes bad in a game, I take a lot of pride in bouncing back because I've kind of done that this year." End quote. That's blank, Vince.
a well-reasoned response. I think he's got a little politician in him to a degree, but I also think he's being honest about it. Like, he admitted he hears it, and he admitted that he deserved it, and he also admitted that it drove him to be better. I think that's a pretty mature way to handle a situation like that. You know what I mean? We've heard plenty of people when, you get talked about getting booed or whatever, and they immediately just go on the attack. That's not what home fans should do. All this other, we work hard. Like, he took it to heart, and he worked harder, and he got better. And, it is what it is. I think that was a very reasoned response.
Make Notre Dame Great Again says he shut off his phone for 11 weeks. It's like, how is he taking, phone calls? Is he, does he actually talk to his mom? Like, I'm sure he's talking about
social media.
Predominantly is what he's talking about. That's exactly right. And I love the fact, like the pissed off part is what stood out the most to me. Like, because this guy, he is so easygoing and he is so aw shucks. I mean, you heard the, oh dang and aw snap. And, he talks about, going to, they're probably sitting over there right now. They might not be since the week is adjusted, but, he's talked about going to Bible study and stuff like that on Thursday night. So he might be sitting over there doing his Bible study right now. I don't know. But like the fact that this motivated him and the fact that, he has been able, to tune this out and turn it into what he needed to turn into, I think that's what stands out the most, because there are a lot of guys who would, just kind of be the shrinking violets. And it's like, oh, I got booed at home. What am I going to do now? And kind of like what we were talking about with his teammates, reminding him in that Players Tribune thing that he did. It's like, look, you talk the talk, or you actually going to walk the walk? And I like the fact that he's walked the walk and backed it up as this season has gone on.
Yeah, 100%.
So Sean McDonough and Greg McElroy are calling the Notre Dame playoff game against Indiana for ESPN Friday night. If you had your choice of college football playoff booths, where does the McDonough-McElroy booth rank? I'm not asking you to rank all of these. These are the other.
Okay, booths. These are the options, is what you're saying.
These are the, like most of these are calling games this weekend. Like Noah Eagle, Todd Blackledge, NBC, Dan Hicks, Jason Garrett do most of the home games for NBC. Nestler Danielson is the CBS crew. But then like you've got Fowler Herbstreit calling Ohio State, Tennessee. Gus Johnson, Joel Klatter, obviously Fox. They're not calling games this weekend. Joe Tessitore, Jesse Palmer, Dave Pasch, Dusty Dvorak are doing Texas and Clemson. Mark Jones, Roddy Jones doing Penn State.
The Jones.
SMU. So, like, where would you put the McDonough-McElroy? Like, where would you rank them in this group of those are probably the top echelon of the college football booths.
Yeah, I would put them towards the top. I think I probably like, if you're, forcing me to choose here, I like the Eagle Blackledge duo. I actually do like those two guys. I think they do a pretty good job. Those are probably my two highest off the top of my head. I know this is going to sound terrible, but I'm glad I don't have to listen this week. So I get to listen to the commentary of Driscoll and Stiers. So, like right here. So I'm happy about that.
There's not a whole lot of conversation, though, going on in that
booth.
There's
not. But there's
Driscoll puts his headsets on, so he drowns everybody out.
Drowns us out.
Joe wants to know who the Droppin' Dimes guy is. Like, do you know who that is? I'm not sure.
No idea.
Good question. He says Blackledge hates Notre Dame. Like, I think people have warmed to McElroy because they perceive him to favor Notre Dame, like for whatever reason. Like, I think McDonough, to me, and I agree, like Noah Eagle Blackledge, I do think that's a pretty good booth. I think Dan Hicks, who's started doing the Notre Dame home games this year, is a good play-by-play guy. Like
I didn't like the combination. People. I'm not as down on Jason Garrett as everybody else.
I'm not either, but at the same time, he's still not one of my favorites, just because there's a lot of cardboard there. There's some good, there's some decent analysis, but I think there's just a lot of coach speak, that kind of comes with it. He's a little bit stiff still in year 3 or whatever it is. Right. I think McDonough's a really good play-by-play guy, though. Been listening to him for a long time. He's done a lot of big events. And I think that, you might remember he did Monday Night Football a few years back, and then they moved him out of that and they moved him back to college. And I think that that's been gold. Like to me, like McDonough should be the number one ESPN play-by-play guy, but he's not. So I would put him at the top. I think McElroy's getting better. Yeah. And I think it probably helps him that he's paired with, with a veteran like McDonough.
It makes a difference when you're paired with a good
play-by-play
guy.
Said that before, haven't we?
Yes, we have. And
we have.
It's still true.
Yep. Okay. A few others here. Irish for Life 99. Tyler Buckner touches the ball tomorrow. You buy or sell that?
I feel like that I'm going to say I'm out, or I don't think so. I don't want to say that they've gone to the Tyler Buckner well too much, because I still think there's plenty that he can do and things like that, but I just think it would be too obvious.
I'm going to go in. I think at the very least he ends up being a holder, like on a field goal or something.
Really?
Maybe. Yeah.
I wouldn't even know though, because it's normally another 26.
See, and that's the thing, like if you're Indiana, it's got to drive you nuts. It's like, which 26 is that guy? Like, is that the guy who, is that Buckner?
Well, they got names on the back now.
Ah, that's true. I didn't even think about that. So now it's a giveaway.
Yeah.
So it's even harder now.
Right.
Ah.
Yeah. I just thought about that.
I hadn't thought about that. Good call. Good call. Irish for Life 99 wants to know if Jesse and I are going to be at the IB tailgate. I know Brian has, Brian's got to get out there and get set up and all that. We got to find out like where it is, when it is.
Yeah.
I know Jesse's going to be out there before me too.
Oh, yeah.
So
they're going to be in the Joy slot. This is the information that I know. They're going to be in the Joy slot. Brian's planning on getting out there. At least the plan is about 1:00. But he's not going to know exactly where.
I won't be out there at 1.
No, God, no. I'll still be at work. But he won't know exactly where until he finds an open space. So I believe he's going to put it on Twitter. But then I think somebody's going to grab it from Twitter and put it on the board as to where he is. So Twitter and the board is where you can find out exactly where. But I was told he is going to be flying the IB flag at the tailgate. So that'll be kind of an obvious situation there. I'm going to stop by at some point. I would say not early, but I will be there at some point. But more likely 6:00 range is what I would say. But at the latest. So come on by.
Yeah, someone was asking, Chris Salerno is the regular holder. Buckner has been the guy that they have brought in. They both wear number 26. So here's my question. Given that names are on the jerseys now, and essentially you can't cause that confusion, and because the fact that you've had 2 weeks, do you just put Tyler Buckner on, like, make sure he's on the field on all those special teams units so they always have to be aware of him, so that now it's not like, okay, you're sneaking him on the field and they've got the binoculars and they're like, okay, it's Buckner,
right,
and not Salerno. Do you just have him on all the different units possible so that they have to account for him all the time?
I do not, because I don't trust Buckner blocking or tackling or any of those other things, to be perfectly honest with you. So I just
lose all element of surprise.
You do, and that's fine. I mean, it is what it is. There's other people that can throw the football on the football team. Jack Kaiser was a quarterback. He can throw the football. Plenty of guys can toss the rock if necessary. So, yeah.
Joe is asking what time the lots open. Gordian is saying 8. I have heard, now I don't have this.
I don't have it.
I had heard that they were waiting until noon to open the lots tomorrow. I haven't heard that that's official, but that's what I had heard, that noon is when they were opening up tomorrow because it's Friday.
I'm going to text a cop friend of mine and find out.
See if he can give you the answer.
No, he usually works the games, but he's not going to work the game tomorrow because he has to work.
Okay.
So we'll see if he responds.
Let me... We got a lot of information in this email that we got from Notre Dame.
The one today?
But it's mostly media
It's just like parking and stuff like that.
No, I know, but that's why,
I skimmed it.
I'm sure you did, but I was just looking to see if it said anything about what time the lots actually open, since there's all this other information in there.
Gotcha.
But I'm kind of skimming it as well because
they don't usually tell us that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think there's
they don't anticipate us out there tailgating all day.
Correct. In fact, they told us
usually don't. So
don't bring your cameras to tailgate. You see that?
Don't bring your cameras to tailgate.
Well, like we can't record anything like as a news outlet in tailgating land. Not allowed.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So like any just average fan can record stuff, but media people can't.
There's a specific spot set up between where we go into the stadium and where we get our credentials for stand-up. Like if you want to interview somebody from a tailgate, you got to bring them over to that spot. That's what it said in the email.
Okay. I mean, I'd looked through most of it. I guess I didn't see that part. So, okay, let's kind of some player props here real quick. Riley Leonard has a passing number of 181.5, a rushing total of 52.5. Are you confident in the overs on either of those, neither of those, or both of those?
Oh boy.
I like the over on the rushing total. I'm not confident in any passing total number with Leonard. We've been burned too many times.
Yeah, I think his line is going to be something along the lines of like 60 yards on the ground, about 200 through the air, and responsible for 3 touchdowns. That's what I said. That's my prediction. So I guess I've got to take over on both of them, but I'm the most confident in the rushing.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think 160 is my confidence number for Leonard's passing. Yes, Joe, you can basically Facebook Live anything you want out there, but because we're media, apparently we're not allowed to.
So. My cop friend said 8 a.m.
Okay, 8 a.m. it is.
There you go.
Good deal. You got it. Curtis Rourke, the Indiana quarterback, 198.5 passing yards is his number.
I think it's going to be over that for a myriad of reasons. Number one, I think he's a good quarterback. But number two, I think he's going to be throwing the ball a lot in the second half. So I'm going to take the over.
He's only gone under 3 times this year. One of them was against Florida International. And it's just because of the way they run their offense, and especially if Notre Dame does have the lead late in the game, I think that he will end up over 200 yards. I think that's a fairly safe bet, unless the weather just turns into a disaster, which again, like as of right now,
it's not looking that way.
It's just supposed to be cold. It's not supposed to be like cold, just cold, just average
like 30-degree
type cold.
No big deal. Like it'll be in the mid-20s, I think, throughout most of the game. But like, I don't think it's supposed to snow during the day, but I don't think it's supposed to snow during the game. So I don't think that's going to have a whole lot of effect on the gameplay either.
Jeremiyah Love, 86.5 rushing yards, 11.5 receiving yards. Either, neither, both.
I'm definitely taking the over on the receiving yards. I think that's a gimme. I mean, I'm fairly confident in the rushing yards, but I still don't think I would touch it. I don't know. That seems like a bit of a high number. If it was in the 60s or 70s, I would take the over. So I'm going to sit on the receiving yards.
Well, and even the receiving yards, it's like so hit and miss. Like there's a string of like more than half the games this year, he's only had 1 catch for, like single digit yardage. But then like the USC game, they decided, hey, we can use him as a receiver. And he had almost 40 yards on 3 catches. So I'm confident. I'm more confident in the rushing yards than the receiving yards, even as low as the receiving yards are. So,
okay,
86.5 rushing yards, pretty confident in that. Jadarian Price, 36.5 rushing yards.
Oh my God. Pound the over on that.
Total over.
Holy crap on a stick. Yeah, you pound that over. No doubt.
So let's see. If Leonard goes over 52.5, Love goes over 86.5, and Price goes over 36. 14.5. Like you're sitting there at what, around 160 yards just with like minimal overs on all three of those.
That's a good point. Look at you with the math. I'm impressed.
Check out the big brain on Brad. That's right. Jordan Faison, over under 24.5 receiving yards. I like this over.
I'm taking the over. I think that over. He is trending towards being one of Riley Leonard's more favorite targets. So I like the over.
I like him in this matchup specifically.
Okay.
Like out of that slot, and again, against like if Indiana's going to play all that zone defense they like to play, I like this for Jordan Faison. And I also like over 28.5 for Mitchell Evans, which is his number. You like the over on that?
I like the over on everyone that you're about to say. So yes.
Bo Collins 26.5.
I know what you're gonna say.
But
I am riding the Bo Collins train on this one simply from he's been here before. He knows what it takes to win a big game. And I just think that he's going to show up, man. I just feel like he's going to show. I'm not saying he's going to have like 100 yards and 2 scores or anything like that. He's going to have a big catch in this game. He's going to have a chain mover in an important part of this game. He's going to show up. This is why you brought Bo Collins to Notre Dame, these kind of games.
You sold me, Vince. You convinced me. Yes. Good sales job. Yes. All right. Okay. I'm in. Elijah Surratt. The IU receiver, 54.5.
Look, if Benjamin Morrison was in this game, I would take the under because he just dominates the best player on the other team. That's nothing against the two guys that are lining up for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But I just think the kid's going to get his, whatever that is, between the 20s, he's going to get some. So I'm going to take the over there as well.
Yeah. I mean, he's like 49 receptions, not a huge number, but it's a very respectable number. I mean, it's bigger than any number than anybody for Notre Dame has. They throw to him almost twice as much as anybody else on the team. So, again, for like the way they operate their offense, I've got to go over on him. Interesting little prop that I saw on the FanDuel app today.
Wild.
Plus 25,000 odds for neither team to score a touchdown. I don't think it's going to happen, but like considering how good both of these defenses are, like I threw $5 at it, and I'll win like over $1,200 if it somehow, ends up being a field goal game tomorrow night. So I was like, why not? Why not?
I mean, if that happens, Notre Dame loses, in my opinion. So you might be in the money, but you're going to be a pretty depressed Joe.
Joe Papiti?
Yeah, right.
By the way, Joe wants to know, like Joe has apparently never been to South Bend in December or January. So he says, does it get Chicago cold there? Like you have to go get a coat out. I mean,
Chicago's 2 hours away, man. Yeah. Like it's the same weather.
Like we are, like where we are, even though we're what, 40, 50 miles from Lake Michigan. Like we're still close in it because we get lake effect snow here all the time. And you still, when that wind is blowing, man, like you're getting Lake Michigan cold weather over here.
We get more snow than Chicago does because of that lake
because
effect.
Of it. Yeah.
Yeah, we get way more snow. Now, it gets obviously very cold in Chicago because of the wind and all of that, but we get that here. So yeah, it's the same, man. Like if you don't come properly prepared tomorrow night,
especially at night,
real cold.
Like you need some layers out there tomorrow night.
It's going to be real
because
cold.
the stadium is what now, again, like we've never done this in December, but typically, like in November when it's getting colder, there's a lot more moisture in the air. And when you're in that stadium, it feels colder.
Yeah.
Especially the lower you are down, because of like just the dampness and stuff that's typically in the air. So
yeah, it's going to be cold tomorrow. So, if people are coming to the game, man, make sure you layer up. I was just looking at the weather app and it appears that at kickoff, it's going to be 28 degrees and 11 o'clock is probably what we'll say when it's going to end. It's going to be 23. So it's going to be chilly.
Boogie.
Going to be chilly. And
Boogie.
the feels like is 17 at kickoff and 17 at the end of the game. So cold.
What are our thoughts on Freeman saying that Pete and he are essentially dedicated to doing what it takes to win a championship? What do you think he's referring to? I think it was Pete that said that. Pete Bavacqua said that they are maniacally, was it dedicated or devoted to winning a championship or more. I did think like the or more, like and more, whatever that was. I thought that was interesting because does that just mean multiple championships? Like, because like what else is there beyond winning a championship?
Yeah, I mean, the saying that they're dedicated to doing whatever it takes. I mean, Shields Hall is under construction. It's going to be beautiful and awesome and everything, all of that, right? They're not afraid to pay for coaches. They're not afraid to pay for players under the right circumstances, not high school players, but, players that are actually doing what they're supposed to do. They're doing all the right things. They're not letting college football pass them by like they kind of used to back in the day. I think they're on the cutting edge of everything. I mean, they know what they're going to do with the revenue sharing. They know what they're going to do with roster sizes. Like, this is a very proactive group at Notre Dame now than it ever was in the past.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is what he means by they're willing to do whatever. Look, they're sinking money into the program. That's what everybody wants, right? They're sinking money into the program, that facility, coaching salaries, nutrition, uniforms, all of those different things. They're doing it. And I think that's what he means by it.
And I think the fact that you've got another domer like Bavacqua,
he's a fan
who's in charge. Yeah. Like, and he talked about that 1993 Notre Dame, Florida State environment. Like that's what he envisions for out there tomorrow night. But I think the fact that like, that's who you've got in charge, it means more to him than obviously Jack Swarbrick was an alum as well. But I think that that's part of why things have advanced so much in these last, we're going on, around 15 years or so, I guess, since Swarbrick became athletic director. The fact that you do have a couple guys who went to school here, and it has just meant more to them. It meant more to Swarbrick and means more now to Bavacqua as well.
And it's across the board athletically. I mean, it is. You're seeing more national championships in other sports. You're seeing more competitiveness in other sports. You're seeing facility upgrades in other sports. Like, it's across the board, but clearly football is the headliner, and they're pouring all kinds of money into football.
Joe says Pete understands Notre Dame's a money-making machine. I mean, he knows Notre Dame's a money-making machine. But he also talked about it with, like the NBC deal that, like keeping your TV partner, invested in you starts with the on-field product.
Absolutely.
So, like, even though Notre Dame didn't get any big marquee, games as it turned out for NBC this year, the fact that Notre Dame is successful, that just drives more interest going forward, keeps them invested in the whole thing. And that's where, independence starts with that TV contract. So
no doubt.
Final one from Clontarf. Is that what that is? Clontarf?
Yeah.
How good do you think this offensive line is? He says it seems a bit tough to judge.
They've gotten a lot better as the season has progressed. They got a lot better when Billy Schrauth was inserted into the lineup. I think they have gone from a suspect offensive line with a lot of injuries to a very solid to semi-great, right? I'm not going to say they're elite because they're not, right? But they're on the verge of great, and it helps to have the guys behind them that are running the football, because the holes don't have to be massive. But I do think that this offensive line has just gotten markedly better week after week after week. And to a man, each individual guy has gotten better week after week after week, and they're starting to work really, really, really well together. And that's what you want. Like, I don't need everybody to be a road grader. I just need everybody to just put a hat on a hat and give me a crease. Like, give Jeremiyah Love.
That's all you need.
That's it.
Because Price and Love are both great after contact. Like, they're both still, getting some contact, but that's exactly right. All you need is that crease. You just got to give them a little bit of daylight, and they can do the rest.
Exactly.
Like, I said a few weeks back, I felt like it has become an underrated group because of where they started off, but like there's been a lot less true critiquing / criticism of this offensive line over the last month. No coincidence that with Schrouth at left guard and Spindler at right guard, that has been a big part of it. But, even, again, because of like Schrouth, we haven't been talking about a bunch of Anthony Knapp mistakes since Schrouth has been in there, right?
They work really well together. I mean, they just do, which is why when we talked about, Charles Jagasaw and all that kind of stuff, like I'm good with where things are at right now because I feel like it's a very, very good working relationship on the left side.
Yeah. Tomorrow's going to be a good test for them, but
for sure.
I think that they're up for the matchup, because just like it's going to be a good test for them. I think that Notre Dame's offensive line is better than Ohio State's offensive line, as an example.
I agree.
And Indiana had its handful with Ohio State's offensive line.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
And I think it's probably better than Michigan's offensive line
as well.
But again, they had their hands full there as well. So, all right, great stuff tonight.
It's our last.
How do we get through? How do we get through the next 25 hours, Vince?
It's not going to be easy. I'm going to tell you how I'm going to start. I'm going to Culver's to get some dinner. That's where I'm starting.
There you go. I thought you were going to say ice cream, but
it comes at the end. I mean, I get a kid's meal. Comes with free cup ice cream. Come on.
What do you get at Culver's? You go cheeseburger. You go
cheeseburger, fries. It's kids meal. Cheeseburger, fries.
Okay,
and then it comes with some ice cream. So
yeah, you're literally going with the kids meal. All right.
I can't afford a regular meal, Sean. Come on.
I don't blame you. You got 8 million kids in that house, and Christmas is next week. So.
And they're all, exactly. You nailed it, man. You 100% nailed it. So Jack wants to know if my kid's going to be there. Yes, he is going to be there. He's very excited about it.
All right. Yeah, so we'll be out there. Once Brian figures out where he is, we'll be out there at some point. Like I said, I don't have like the the hunting pullovers and all that stuff to bundle up in.
Which is why I'm not going to be out there as long as other people.
But. That's right. I'm not tolerant like that. But
me neither.
We'll be out there at some point. Ooh, cheese curds and a tenderloin. Now you're singing my tune there.
Just saying. Oh, Joe's in a great mood. Love it, Joe. Thank you.
Joe, thank you for slipping that super chat in before we wrap it up. All right.
I'm excited to meet Joe. I'm excited to meet everybody, but I hope I get to see Joe. Because I want to see Joe with a smile on his face.
Hey, don't forget, Monday is December 23rd, and December 23rd is Festivus in IB Nation land, of course, in Seinfeld land, if you're familiar with that. So, the bulk of our show will be talking about whatever happens tomorrow night, like the first part of the show.
Yes.
But Rapid Fire is going to be the airing of grievances. So we've got all weekend to come up with our grievances for Monday. Hopefully we don't have too many originating tomorrow night.
Great call.
But airing of grievances in Rapid Fire on Monday, because it is, the comments are flying in now, a Festivus for the rest of us. Yes.
Hey, listen, I believe Jesse's going to be in your house. Yes? Or is he going to be back home by then?
Monday. I think he's leaving Monday. So, yeah.
Man. Okay. Because what I was going to say was the feats of strength is usually father and son.
Right.
So I was thinking we could do like a live stream.
Oh, man. I don't need to hurt myself.
I'll just get my kid down here. You can kick my butt.
All right. I wish I had a big aluminum pole I could just march into the press box with tomorrow night. All right. Well, that's going to do it. Hit that like button before you leave. Enjoy the game tomorrow night. Stay warm. Stay safe. Safe travels if you're coming in for the game. It sounds like a lot of people are. So let's have fun. Brian and Vince and Trevor and Sean and whoever else will be up late tomorrow night with the post-game show, and then we will talk to you on Monday. A lot of football over the next few days. Hit the like button. We'll talk to you later. IB Nation Sports Talk.